Hi, Shellon. How are you?
Hi, Walter. I am doing amazing.
You look amazing. Life is good. You're doing well.
Thank you for the invitation. You look
Absolutely.
amazing too. The beauties
Well,
of retirement, I suppose.
I went home sometime in the last month back to Boston and saw friends, and everybody told me it actually looks like I got younger. I'll take that.
Yes, more relaxed. I suppose you are
Yes.
working on your schedule now.
There you go. Yeah, life is good. I totally recommend it to everyone. Whenever you can
Awesome.
get there.
Awesome.
So let me introduce you to everyone who's listening. This is Shallon Samuels White. Uh, I have known Shallon probably going on 5 years, I'm guesstimating. She's been a faculty lecturer at the Micro University College in Kingston, Jamaica, and has taken on a new role this year as the University College Student Assessment Officer. And so it was especially appropriate that for our very first issue of the Legacy Transformation and Action Journal, she submitted a piece, Why Fix What Isn't Broken? Challenging Longstanding Assessment Practices in Higher Ed Teacher Training Institutions, at which she works one. And Shallon, the very last paragraph to me is a great place to kind of kick off the conversation. It's so compelling. You say, the challenge is clear. Don't be afraid to fix what's working. Sometimes the most meaningful changes come when we question practices that we've been relying on for years. Isn't that the truth? Professional development in higher ed isn't just about attending another workshop. It's about transforming our mindsets, challenging our assumptions, creating more inclusive and equitable learning environments for all students. Isn't that why we became educators in the first place? What a great piece. Thank you so much for submitting it and sharing your expertise in our very first issue of the journal.
Thank you, Walter, for the opportunity to do so. Yes,
So,
teaching. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, I don't want to interrupt.
I was just saying, teaching is such an interesting field that it it is dynamic, it changes, and the needs of the sector is always changing. And so, even though we may have um, practices that are functional or they are sufficient for the time, it is always important and it's always good that even though it may not appear to be broken and it may not be broken, but because of the nature of teaching, we have to from time to time, examine our practices so that we are in keeping with what's global and what's best practice and what's evolving so that we can meet the needs of our students.
It's so true. We had a panel recently on transforming education, our second panel, and Natalie Odom Pugh, another emerging leader who is in South Carolina, said this in a very compelling way. And it was kind of the flow of the conversation where she finally just said, when we realize things aren't working for kids, we can't wait till the next school year. We can't say, when next September comes, we'll do it differently. We need to do something now because those kids may not be here the next school year. And
That's it.
those are months that go by that if we don't fix things midstream, we're really not doing a service for those kids. And that is what you're saying.
Yes, and it's not even just about fixing midstream.
Mhm.
When we sometimes teachers always have good intentions and we say, all
Yes.
right, we will do it next year. We'll try to fix it next year. But then we sometimes forget that next year comes with its own challenges and things get real busy real fast in education. So sometimes it's not that teachers don't want to do, but things just happen and it gets out of your hands. So do it now. I always love to say, do it while you can, because you don't know what can happen or what will happen when you do decide that you want to do it.
Amen. So tell us about your new role as University College Student Assessment Officer. How has that shifted your work and what are you doing?
Oh, well, it's an amazing opportunity and I wouldn't say it shifted my work. It's just focusing on one part of what I used to do. So in
Ah,
lecturing, because of my training in curriculum and instruction and assessment, I used to focus on teaching courses that include assessment,
Mhm.
but also teaching methodologies. So this part now just the assessment part of it takes up more of the time as opposed to the teaching. I do still facilitate classes,
Mhm.
but I have more time to now dedicate to the assessment. And a part of what I used to do while being a lecturer is I used to serve as a faculty examiner, and
Mhm.
that had to do with helping with the assessment component for my faculty as opposed to the entire institution. So it's
Yeah.
now an extension of what I used to do and involving a lot of other different things, but more so the assessment for the institution as well. So it has been interesting so far. I am currently just trying to do some auditing because I believe that we first need to understand before we try to fix
Right.
anything. So we're doing a lot of auditing in the unit.
Good.
My supervisor and I, and we are trying to get a sense of where the gaps are, where the support is needed, so we can assist both faculty and students. Just this week, just November, we
Yeah.
launched an initiative called Exam Support Initiative for our students. In
Mhm.
our audit, we did a survey on exam anxiety,
Yeah.
and the survey revealed that our students show, based on the instrument, moderate to severe anxiety, more on the moderate side. And
Yes.
they indicated that they would want some more assistance in their study strategies
Mhm.
and stress management, time management, and all of that. So our initiative for the month include, we have we have had one webinar so far on how to, get through the exam door in the context of the MICO. What are some of the things you need to do before you can be admitted? When you're in there, how do you interpret your verbs? How do you manage your time? How do you manage your stress
Yes.
level? And we share study tips weekly. We have a little thing called Study Tip Mondays, where
Ah,
we share some best practices for studying. And just the initiative is just to get them to start thinking about their exams early. The reality is that exams are a big part of their assessment at
yeah.
the MICO, and so they need to start thinking about, and the audit that we have been doing that is ongoing
Mhm.
shows that whilst they are doing well in coursework pieces, when it comes to the exams, the grades just shift right down below par. So we're trying to see how best can we improve their learning outcomes, as well as, be able to use that data to help our faculty at the same time in how
Yes.
they interpret and even develop their assessment pieces for our students. So a lot of that is what's going on right now, auditing and helping along the way, because I think if we wait until we are through with the auditing and the checks
Yeah.
and balances, would have missed out on some
Yeah.
key moments where we could have, introduced some things.
It's great work. Did you wake up one day and decide you wanted to pursue this opportunity, or were you approached and asked if you would like to move in this direction? How did that happen?
Well, I think it began, and I'm thinking from my side of things, I don't know what's going on in the heads of the
Yeah.
the personnel, but because I served as faculty examiner,
Mhm.
a lot of what I'm doing now, as I said, I used to do at the faculty level.
Right.
So in my faculty, it's a small faculty, but as faculty examiner, I was responsible for vetting papers, but in the cycle of it, doing it for 3.5 years,
Yes.
I observed, there were some gaps, support needed in terms of helping lecturers to develop those good test items, just basic constructing test items, and having small trainings and so on over the years. As I go along, I see where, maybe this would be good to standardize. Maybe we should all agree on something on this. So as I went through that role and developed documents, protocol for standardization, and so on, it kept evolving because, as I said, I consider myself to be a problem solver. So as I go along and I am working and I see some gaps, I'm thinking, how can I help to solve this problem? So a lot of the documentation and things that I've developed, I didn't even think of them as being of much great significance, but we transitioned, or we are transitioning at the college in terms of gaining university status and also institutional accreditation. And it turned out that some of these very documents and manuals and all of that, they were helpful in the process of, so when I was when the role was advertised, I was encouraged to apply because it's similar to what I have been doing. And so I applied, I attended the interview, and here we are.
Here you go. Doors open. Love that. So help us, for someone like me in the States, or from someone listening from another part of the world, in Jamaica, when you talk about accreditation and receiving university status, is that through the Ministry of Education, or is there some regional accrediting agency? How does that work?
Yes, we have a body called the University Council of Jamaica, the UCJ. They govern the tertiary institutions in terms of programs of having it accredited. They do the evaluation to make sure they are on par with what exists in other countries. So yes, there's a period of self-studying, and they come in and they observe an interview and all of that.
When it comes to the actual assessments, when you're talking about the students you're working with, does the MICO determine the assessments, or the assessments brought in from outside influences and you're told to use these assessments?
So currently, that used to happen where the Joint Board of Education would prepare exams and so on. However, because we are now a university college and we have been given institutional accreditation, we have been deemed to have the quality and the expertise to do our own creation. Hence the importance of the unit in making sure that what we are doing is still in keeping with good practice, and we are, living up to that which has been endowed upon us.
Well, that's really important, because in your article, and I love the way you presented it, this is really about empowering educators, that they don't simply go sit and attend professional learning and then come back and keep going through the motions, but help them to change their mindsets and think about assessments that ultimately are more equitable and fair to everyone, and allow for differences culturally and beyond the influences of the classroom. And for the MICO to be able to have that ability to inform what the assessments are and how they're used gives you a lot of leverage to be able to make changes, yes?
Yes. And that is, in my mind, that is where I see the unit being that, what's the term I want to use now? That body that helps to change the culture, or even not even to change, but to establish that culture of assessments and evidence-based practice, not just for us internally, but even externally, nationally, because the MICO has a long history and legacy, being almost 200 years old. It is known as the premier teacher training institution in the region. And so we have a good opportunity to present ourselves as that voice that can
Yes.
help to inform and strengthen what exists. Because I'm sure, best practices are everywhere, but how
Hmm.
can we help to strengthen what exists even from a regional standpoint? Because sometimes
Yeah.
many of the practices that we hear about and we adopt from other
Hmm.
countries, it needs tweaking to suit our context.
Of
And
course.
we have a good opportunity to be that regional voice or
Yes.
national voice from
Yeah.
where we are at the Michael.
Here in the States, we have in every state, our universities, our teacher training programs. And it's kind of hit and miss as to the relationship between, say, the University of Virginia here in Virginia, and which school districts might have a relationship with the University of Virginia so that they can benefit from the research going on there, or maybe have the university come into districts and do action research in classrooms. What does that look like for you in Jamaica? Is there an understanding and a relationship between the MICO and surrounding school districts, at least in the Kingston area, or is it less formal?
Well, there is, or let me say, so from the Ministry of Education standpoint,
Mhm.
they are the ultimate standard bearers, so to speak,
Yeah.
even though at the tertiary level, we have somewhat of a other oversight
Mhm.
bodies. However, because of what we do, teacher training, and the teachers are going into the public sector to
Yeah.
teach, there has to be that close connection, though they don't dictate, we don't dictate what happens. The Ministry of Education does, but we
Yeah.
have close partnerships with the Ministry of Education. We do help in training, sometimes action research. They do
Yeah.
provide grants to help to do the research and so on, so that we are not all singing different tunes.
Yes.
When we train our teachers at the MECO, for example, and other teacher training institutions, we are expecting
Mhm.
them to go back into the school system and implement so that the students can benefit and the sector, the education system on a whole can benefit. I find that when we have disjointed um, agendas, it
Mhm.
does not benefit anybody at all,
No.
because all we are doing is trying to start from scratch all the time.
Yes.
And it's still the same students, still the same outcomes, still the same
Yeah.
goal and vision that we have for them. So we have to work together to make that. We have to in terms of formal, though, it is not mandatory, say they must
No.
keep in touch, but we do reach out through our various programs, outreach, and through individual lecturers as well. I,
Mhm.
for example, do a lot of professional development sessions through the schools, and sometimes I am contacted through my institute, my department, or some
Mhm.
other lecturer would recommend you. So it's still a partnership, though not a formal kind of a situation.
That makes perfect sense. And um, so much of it is about having relationships that they know you and you get to know them. And so much I totally get, the formal, this is how it is to be done comes from the ministry. But for all of us who have been teachers, it's about, well, what does that look like? How do we implement that in the classroom? And how do we know that it's successful? Um,
Yes.
and
And
so,
sometimes too, we have to initiate conversation with the ministry to say, we have done our research. This is a practice that we have been doing and it has proven to work. Can you endorse this?
yeah,
And they would, if they can, or if it is something that is up their alley, they would come on board. And there are workshops or trainings or whatever is best at the time to
yes.
get everybody on the same page.
So along with taking on a new role at the day job, you're taking graduate classes at the University of South Carolina. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes, yes,
Tell us
yes.
about that. What are you taking and how does that mesh with the work you're doing?
Oh, well, I am doing my Doctor of Education in Educational Practice and
Ah,
Innovation. So the name can tell you how exciting the
Yes.
program is. I am really just excited, elated that I've discovered through backups
Yep.
this program, but it has been going well so far. I have been most of my courses are spanning both the research component, that's
Yeah.
a big part of the graduate work, research
Sure.
component and curriculum practices. That's my
Ah,
concentration, and curriculum in the sense of all things curriculum. The four
yes.
areas of curriculum, which assessment is a big part. As a matter of fact, my potential dissertation is around that, and
Yeah.
I'm I'm submitting that December
Are you?
for approval to
Right.
move on with this study. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that that will be approved. But
Yes.
tentatively, the focus of the dissertation is transforming assessment practices
Perfect.
through professional development. So that's what I want to look at.
What a
Uh,
great alignment. That's
yeah,
so in line with your work.
yes. So because that's where I see the greatest needs. So right now, in terms of my
Hmm.
problem of practice,
Hmm.
and having just such a good alignment of everything in that, I was transferred to the unit in the same period I was trying to finalize my thing. I started out initially, though, with looking at my classes that I was teaching in assessment,
Yeah.
but I have made the adjustments to look at from an institutional point of view in terms of faculty rather than students right now.
Sure. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yes, so it's going great. Classes, I like the setup. It's flexible, and that
Mhm.
works for me right now.
Oh, yes. Life is busy, I know.
Yes, yes.
So as much as the graduate program, the doctoral program aligns well with your work, have there been any surprises so far? Have you come across anything in your studies there that just came out of left field and really pushed your thinking or made you rethink some assumptions?
Not say rethink,
Hmm.
but it has really concretized certain things in my mind, as
Good.
well as I am more aware of Jamaica, of certain things that happens outside or in big countries like the US and so on.
Good.
In Jamaica, we do not have certain issues, for example, racial and diversity, and
Yeah.
issues like racism and the whole matter of systematic discrimination and so on, and diversity in terms of gender and all of that.
Right.
So it is always interesting when I take courses where these are the topics of focus, to learn more about how it is in other jurisdictions and how that really impacts um, education. I got an
Yes.
assignment for one course in the last course.
Uh-huh.
It was really interesting for us to visit a space, a place
Uh-huh.
that we would never normally go to,
Wow.
and write about the experience and connect that to the curriculum and how we teach. And it was really an interesting, though we do not have certain level of diversity, but I went to another religious um
Ah,
space, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
was, even for me living in Jamaica, born and bred, I
yeah.
did not know some of the things. I don't think I will go again, but it opened
Well,
my eyes as
yeah.
to how things are done in other belief systems. And interestingly, I have had students in my class before that were from this, or they embraced, so to speak,
Right.
that religious belief, but I'd never given thought to them
Yeah.
as saying, okay, they are different learners and some of their practices might have influence. And I must confess, reflecting on the experience, I might have even offended
Sure,
some
without
of
knowing.
these students in
Yeah,
some things that I would have said and done earlier
yes,
on in my teaching career. So it is an interesting journey. I'm a learner, and I love, one of the things I am discovering about myself, Walter, is that I love to learn about cultures, even though I may not embrace some of the practices, but it is always interesting to learn about how other people do things.
absolutely.
So yeah, it has been good. Has been
I'm
good.
so glad. Yeah, I can tell by the smile you're enjoying. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's
And
not difficult yet.
well, for you, I doubt it'll ever be difficult,
I
but we
hope.
know the workload will, yes, and the deadlines and all of that. Absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah, talking about different cultures, you recently you were sharing on social media that you had the opportunity to go to Germany and present at a conference. Tell
Oh,
us how that
yes.
came around and what the experience was like.
Oh, that was what you call a shotgun experience. But everything came about in literally 2 weeks. But we
Amazing.
were able to go, and it was a good experience as well.
Yeah,
Different experience in a different culture,
very different.
and
Yes.
um the presentation was well received. Strangely, when I devised that project or study
Mm,
to go to Germany, I did not necessary. I wasn't looking at it from such a global
right.
extent, mental health. But attending the conference and hearing not just on mental health, hearing
Mm-hmm.
researchers on other aspects of health,
Yeah.
I it opened my eyes as to how interconnected all of the sectors and life is.
Yes.
And even though I was the only one that focused on the intersection between public health and education,
Mm-hmm.
the most of the conference presenters were doctors, medical students, psychiatrists, and
Wow.
persons who are directly in the medical field.
Yeah.
But as they presented their work, and I, try to connect everything into the students and the teachers and school persons. Schools
Mhm.
are microcosms of society. And if
Yes.
we do not begin to think about how all connect, then we are missing out on a grand opportunity to really and truly, impact learning. The, the mental health challenges that we faced in Jamaica prior to COVID,
Yeah.
only it did not go away, it was only made worse by
Right.
COVID. And so it is heartening to see as I went through the interviews for this study and looked at the school practices, how much work is going on to help support teachers in their mental health, and how much more work there needs to be done in order to develop. There was a concept that you used some time ago, early on in ASCD,
Yeah. Yes.
the whole teacher, how much
Yeah.
work is necessary, because our teachers are more and more, they are expected to take on so many different roles and hats, and it can become overwhelming and lead to serious challenges in their personal health.
Yeah.
And you can't pour from an empty cup. They
No.
have personal lives, we have personal lives. We are hoping that, and I discovered the concept too, that there is such a thing called health promoting schools.
Huh.
A concept put forth by the World Health Organization. And
Wow.
that is the lens through which I am trying to evaluate what's going on in our schools, though it's a
Mm-hmm.
qualitative study and it's not generalizable, but I'm seeing where we have opportunity in our schools to really align ourselves much better to
Yeah.
becoming health promoting schools. We are seeing the challenges with our children. Every now and again, you hear the Ministry of Education coming out, the Ministry of Health coming out to saying, you know, more and more young people are having non-communicable diseases.
Yeah.
They are not receiving education as best as they can. Even
Yeah.
the violence and other things that are happening in our society, it's
Right.
impacting them. And so we can't just, you know, brush it aside and pass it off as behavioral challenges in our students. We have to directly try to mitigate the challenge from the root. And that is something that even though I've gone and I've presented, I'm thinking of really following through some more in this study.
Yeah.
And I was invited also by the institution to submit a manuscript for publication in their health journal.
Wonderful.
So that is a little push to
Oh, yes.
finish working on it some more
Yeah.
and writing up the documentation.
Yeah. A little push could be helpful. That's okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
I need a push.
well, we all do. Health promoting schools, are these like a set of indicators that you can use to?
Yes, they have a list of, I think it's more than 10 that they are saying if they want schools that are considered to be health promoting schools to be doing a number of different things. For example, partnerships
Yeah.
with stakeholders. So though a school may have their own initiatives, their water days, and so on. How are you promoting health consciousness in the community? Because the children come from the community, sometimes the teachers come from the community,
Yeah.
and get them on board. They describe them as informal health workers. So those are like teachers, those are principals, not directly in the health field, but you have a role to play. They talk about how the curriculum is adapted
Yeah.
to promote health consciousness. So, for example, in Jamaica, we have now, even though before COVID it existed, but COVID has really placed it
Yeah.
into focus, a subject called health and family life education.
Mhm.
And so that is now being promoted more. Because before it was just a course, one-off, you know, based on your structure of your school, you could, you know, make it a full session or not. It wasn't the priority, but we're
Yeah.
seeing that subject is more in focus. Other little things, and from the ministry standpoint, now they are mandating that certain things are in documentation and in writing in the school improvement plans and in the guidance welfare plans. Those things are documented. So it's not by chance, but we are deliberately promoting this
Yes.
kind of lifestyle in our schools.
It's so timely. And your reference to the COVID-19 disruption is no matter who I talk to anywhere in the world, it really was a marker in time that just exacerbated so many health issues and mental health issues. And even if they weren't, depending on the child or the adult, severe, still the amount of isolation and the amount of withdrawal and the lack of opportunity just to have social time with people.
Yes. Yes,
It,
you know, during the study, Walter, it showed I was focusing on mental health, how schools
mhm.
are promoting mental health, but it kept
Yeah.
coming back as a theme that physical health or all aspects of health contribute to our mental health.
Yes.
You mentioned the socialization, you know, stories shared by some of these principals, though it's like a one or a two child, they some of them suffered so much
Yeah.
in COVID
Yes.
that it is so hard for them even 4 years later
Yes.
to really get back to that place where they were in terms of receiving education and being that same bubbly child from the child standpoint.
It's sad.
I shared some statistics at the conference and persons were so overwhelmed, like
Mhm.
we have a challenge here in Jamaica where the ratio of guidance counselors to school to teachers 1 to 500.
Yeah,
And so can you imagine, with all of the challenges, the
yeah,
guidance counselors, they're just not enough to help
no.
to really make a great impact.
Mhm.
Even outside of education, it's 1 to 1,300
Mhm.
psychiatrists to patients.
Yeah,
So mental health is not yet something that we are 100% concerned about. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
So it is important that we begin to seriously think about it from every level, because the
mm,
parents are the ones with the children. The
yeah.
children come to us with the challenge. When they are frustrated, the children are frustrated.
Mhm.
They come to school, they frustrate the teacher, and everybody's frustrated. The
Yeah,
learning is impeded. And
yeah,
every time we have to delay teaching and learning to address some of these things, we're gonna feel the impact some time later or another. And we don't want that. Our system,
no,
we have a lot of work to do, and this mental health issue is just exacerbating some of those challenges. It's just another thing on the list of
yeah,
reform that
yeah.
we need. So I was
But
happy that when I came
yes,
to the conference that, this was a theme
yes,
that was shining through.
and helps to make the case that it's all connected, that you can't
Yes.
just look at academic performance and not look at mental health and all the other things we're talking about. There was a real sense here in the States during the pandemic that this is a real opportunity for disruption. This is going to allow us as a profession to really make some changes because we have to, because there's a virus and we have to make changes. And the hope was that after we were able to manage the virus, that we would continue from the point of disruption to make changes and improve. That hasn't happened. There's been so much backsliding.
Yep, yep.
So
And that's, remember earlier, Walter, we talk about the time. If we don't do things now,
yes,
things
yes,
get busy real fast.
yes.
And I just think, with all good intentions, the time just didn't allow. That is why it's important to just do things at the point in which we think it is important. Think about it, talk about it, work out the plan, and do it now. Because, or at least begin to do it so that it's in motion,
Yes.
because we may never get to do it. Yes, we have returned to our previous ways in many ways.
And so, and again, I keep doing this from the frame of reference of here in the States, what's going on in Jamaica, and I probably should just leave that alone. But is it possible, no matter where you're working, to bring together a group of like-minded educators and simply implement some things and test them and demonstrate how they work and learn from how they don't work, and then inform the school, the university, the ministry, and allow that to somehow become agents of change just by saying, here's 5 or 7 educators that all believe in this approach to mental health. And they're going to systematically implement some things in their classrooms and compare notes with each other and support each other. And at the end of it all, be able to say, this is what we've learned and this is what works. Is that possible in this day and age?
Certainly, certainly, from the standpoint of action research,
Yeah.
because we are doing different wonderful things
Mhm.
in our own little corners, but sometimes it's not known to others. And so, yes, if we come together and perfect, for lack of a better word, a model,
Mhm.
it can be tweaked for
Yes.
different regional purposes.
Yes.
Yes. So that is what methods we have been doing for centuries in teaching. We take something, we suit it to our own. So this is very much possible, and the documenting of these things and sharing of ideas in a formal sense, so that
Yeah.
persons, at the time you may not be able to participate in such an initiative, but later on, perhaps the
Yes.
time and that archived document is there for you to go back to. So especially for education, where action research is the model which is grounded in intervention and studying the impact of that intervention, it's perfect. It's perfect way to.
Yeah. It always was. My perception is, and having been out of the classroom for a while now, that there's just so much more bureaucracy and the standards are so much more in place that the room for innovation and the even having the time in the day to do that kind of thing, it isn't like it used to be, is what I'm told.
Yes, and that's the big idea. If it is that we are not, as you said, COVID came and we committed to make changes,
Yeah.
but we have to be willing, we have to have the will
Yeah.
to act on those things. We are still gone back to the heavy workload
Yep.
where there is still no time for,
No.
or little time, I should say, for
Yeah.
some of these things. I will be honest, when I was a lecturer,
Yeah.
I had very little time. Most of the things that I have gotten done in terms of research and writing and so on, it's because I have an affinity for writing and I just love to put down pen to paper.
Yeah.
But if it were to rely on time in the day to do my teaching and the administrative work and all these things, it would never get done. And so we will have to be honest with ourselves. Administrators need to be
Yes.
honest with themselves. It is not feasible because we're going to lead into the same construct of mental health issues, forcing our teachers to be doing all of these things. It then shifts into the mode of quantity versus quality.
Right.
And I'm a big proponent. I know that I have many colleagues who do not agree with me, but I believe if it is one good thing you're gonna do it well rather than 10 half-hearted things. And I think
Yes.
that is what is being promoted in education. A lot of the quantity, we must be doing a lot of different things, but I'm not seeing the impact that they can have if we just focus on a few things. And everybody don't have to be doing the same thing.
Thank you.
We expect everybody, all teachers should be doing this, and all teachers need to be doing these 10 things. But why can't we excel in what we are good at? And there is something that I see creeping up in Jamaica and elsewhere too, the publish or the perish mentality.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it is very unfair, personally, to say, because I am not producing 2010 published work, I'm not doing anything, and I'm not to be promoted, or I'm not thinking about my students. I think it is very unfair because a lot is going on in terms of somebody needs to interact with the students and treat them on a personal level. Somebody needs to do the research and the documentation. Somebody needs to focus on the assessment. We are all doing different things, but it is towards the same goal. And I think we are missing that point very much when we push certain kinds of agenda in education. We are becoming a business, and I don't like it. I don't like
You
it.
are This does my heart so much good, and it speaks to the heart of educators everywhere. There's no one listening to this who will not be nodding their head and saying, yes, that's exactly where we should be. Anyone doing the work, you're speaking to their heart. Thank you for saying it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, it works. It works. So Germany was your first time there?
Oh, certainly, certainly. And
Right.
I did not dream of going so far. I am not the adventurous type in terms of traveling to,
Yeah.
I frequent the US, but
Yeah.
I really don't like traveling. And
Right.
so when I heard of Germany, I was like, no, no, thank you. So I initially refused.
Yeah.
And one of my colleagues, the coordinator, called me like, girl, what are you thinking? What is your problem? So I made up some excuse that, well, it wasn't
Right.
an excuse. I had a conference in that same period that I had committed to, and I don't like to break my commitments. I said,
Yeah.
I can't go because,
Right.
it's conflicted. So they're like, we can make it work that you're back in But it took some convincing, but I'm happy
Oh
I
yeah.
reverted to going. So
Oh, I'm so glad you went.
so
Well,
far, I don't know if
well,
it will be my first or last
well, no,
and last.
I promise you it won't be your last. What did you think? Did you try some of the food, the
I
music?
did try the food.
What
I
did you
did
think?
try to go, its transportation system. I don't like German food, I must say.
It's
They
heavy.
have their palate is a lot of savory or, it's a different taste
Yes.
on for their and what they enjoy. I don't necessarily like it, and I was there for a short period, so I tasted and I don't like it. I'm not gonna try it again. That's me.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
anybody. Yeah.
I was happy that there were different cultures there. I did try what's the name of the place? I think it was Taiwan food.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
did not like that either.
Okay.
But Italian struck the chord.
There you go. There you
So I
go.
found an Italian restaurant. I liked Italian food from Jamaica, so I just lived there for the period of time. We got the Italian restaurant for that period of time. Yeah, so the food was good. I admire their transportation system, though
Yes.
because of my situation when I went, I could not manage the walking. I
Yeah.
now understand why they're healthy people, healthy
Yes.
society, they do a
Yeah.
lot of walking.
Yes. This is true.
Yes, yes. And I like the fact that, everything runs on time. If they say it's 6:30, it's 6:30 on the train, so
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that sort of order.
Yeah. And you are
Yeah.
right downtown in the city. Were you in Berlin?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So you are right down in the middle of everything.
yes, yes,
Ah,
I did.
what a wonderful experience.
Yes, and I attended what's it called, Feast of Lights or
Ooh.
the Festival of Lights. That
Okay.
was really
Yeah.
interesting to see. And their water, I learned that they have what they call sparkling water
Mhm.
is regular water.
Oh.
That was like, interesting. But as I said, I am learning to learn about,
Yes.
to love learning about different cultures. And even the persons who were at the conference, they were from all over, as far as Pakistan. So I learned a
Wow.
little or two about, how it is
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Pakistan and Georgia. I did not
Yeah.
know that there existed a country called Georgia.
Yes. Yes.
So it was interesting. We still keep in touch through the
Wonderful.
WhatsApp group with different uh what's the other one? Iraq.
Oh,
Was it Iraq, Pakistan, and Iran? Either Iraq or Iran. There
yeah.
were
Yeah.
persons from those countries. So it was interesting to learn about that
Oh,
very
yeah.
different culture.
Very, very.
Yeah, we had a good time. And to just, Walter, it is just so interesting how human beings, the human spirit is not even just about culture and how different we are, but everybody came together and we were just having a
Yes.
good time and talking to each other. We
Yes.
we we went walking the city together, and that was just a testimony of the human spirit of what can be, in this world.
Isn't that so true? You know, and thank you for sharing it online, because in our busy lives, if I just hadn't come across it and seen the photos you were sharing and that you were there, I wouldn't have known until I finally caught up with you.
Yeah,
So as you have other adventures, please continue to share, because those of us that are big fans and watching you from afar like to see all the wonderful things that are going on.
yeah, I'm learning to share because I was deliberate in sharing only the ones that spoke to the conference and the
Right,
professional work. But
right.
yes, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Yeah. Well, Shellon, thank you. It is so wonderful to catch up with you. Let's not let the time go by so far. Life is so busy. It just,
I tell you, I tell you.
yeah. But thank you. I can't wait to get this out to everyone so they can get to know you better after reading your article.
And thank you, Walter, for the opportunity. It's always a joy to sit with you and discuss all things education.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
All right, you too, and take care and enjoy, continue to enjoy. Well, I don't have to tell you that. Your your
I'm doing that.
downtime.
There
Can't
you
wait to
go.
get there.
Hey, it's worth the wait. I
Long
promise
way
you.
to go. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.